Hi friends, I'm Christiana Gaudet. I am live on my YouTube channel and it is time for a class. The class today is the Tarot Journey for Beginners. I thank you all so much for being here. If you are watching the replay, that's great. If you're here live, that's terrific. And Samantha wants to know if this would be accessible. Yes, all my classes are accessible. The link that got you here will also get you to the replay. Absolutely. And it's nice to see you here. So I wanted to spend an hour just talking about what does the tarot beginner need to know? I mean, on some level, we are always going to be tarot beginners because there's always so much more to learn. But for the person who is just starting out, whether that's you or a friend, or whether you are reigniting your tarot passion, or whether you are just wondering if there's another way to come at the cards, I thought we would spend an hour talking about very basic, very beginner stuff. And no matter where you are on the journey, I think you're likely to learn something here. And I'm curious, just a show of hands, if you would go ahead and say, where do you put yourself? Are you a brand new beginner? Are you just learning? Where are you at on your journey? Laura, I feel like I haven't seen you in so long. Thanks for being here. So while we're waiting for people to say where they are on their journey, I would love to answer Sarah's question. And Sarah, thank you for being here. Thanks for being a member here. StarCon question. If you're coming to StarCon in person, what should you bring? A light jacket and a bathing suit because January in Florida, right? Your credit card because vendors. Definitely a way to take notes. A device like your tablet or your phone so you can access the Excelivance app, even a laptop if you like. Of course, a tarot deck or two or three, an oracle deck, a pendulum, and a smile, and probably your mask, because I think there will be a lot of people who will be masking at least at certain times. And I know I'm going to be bringing a travel coffee cup so that at meals I can like fill up my coffee cup. There is a Starbucks pretty close by, FYI. All right, that's what I would have to say about that. Okay, and I want to say thank you very much to Marianne D for the very generous super chat. Really appreciate it. See, I'm getting all choked up. I'm so excited about it. Super chats, super stickers are all fabulous ways to support this channel, as well as memberships. You know who the members are because their names are in green. You can become a member at one of 3 levels, and I'm very grateful to the members as well. So before we get going, let me mention StarCon as Sarah did. StarCon is not this weekend. It is the following weekend, January 21st through 23rd. Tickets are available. You can join us online or in person in Palm Beach Gardens. Ticket prices range from $50 to $425. Choose the ticket that works for you. And remember that StarCon is followed by a 30-day afterglow where you can watch the classes that are in your ticket and some live events in the lounges for 30 days. And so it is a great deal. Like for $50, you get 12 classes that you can watch in person and or online, plus some lounge events. It's a great thing. Obviously, the more money you pay, the more classes you get. That's how it works. And we're really looking forward to seeing you. Now, if you have that $50 ticket and you decide you want to upgrade, you can do that as well. All right, my friends, thank you for being here. I also want to ask you to please like this video. The more people we have liking it, the better it is for me. So please do like it. All right, so let's see. A couple of people here have identified themselves. Ginger, Marianne have identified themselves as beginners. Kathy, just learning, got my first deck in the summer. That's fabulous. Patricia's been a beginner for 20 years. Chara is relearning. Angelic Michelle, I read for others and I'm considering going professional. That's fabulous. I love that. Diana, I feel intermediate, but you know I lack confidence, right? Laura, maybe beginning intermediate. Christine, beginner, but keep buying cool tarot decks. Yeah, well, that's beginner collector, and you can be a collector at any level. Dave, I've been around, but I remain a student of life, a work in progress, an unfinished symphony. Okay, that's a bit much. Betty, a professional student. Julie, a professional student as well. And again, thank you everyone whose name is in green. These are members. They're making a monthly contribution to this channel. So let's really give them some love and appreciate them. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Peggy, nice to see you. Robin Renee, nice to see you. Smile Soul 20. Angelic Michelle, glad you're here. Okay. Sue, nice to see you. Is Gilligan in the house too? No, just Marianne. Um, Sarah's intermediate, got my first deck 3 years ago, but great classes like this expedited my progress. Well, that is what we're here to do. That's fabulous. That's right. We have Ginger and Marianne. That's hilarious. I mean, I'm not laughing at your names. I just think it's fun that you're both here. And only those of us of a certain age would even get that. Okay. Aviva from my Omega class. Yay, nice to see you. Late beginner absorbing it all. That's fabulous. Claire, like Patricia, I'm a beginner intermediate for 25 years. Looking forward to seeing you at StarCon too. Baby Cakes beginner, yes. Peggy Lou, intermediate student of life and metaphysics. Okay, so I want to take it from the very beginning. And even though probably none of you are at the very, very beginning, you might have a friend who asks these questions. And so the first thing, what is the first thing a tarot beginner needs to do? They need to get a tarot deck. Now, I think all of you probably have a deck, but there's some lousy advice about getting tarot decks out there. Most specifically, just get the deck that calls to you. Yeah, no, don't do that. Get a deck that has clear images that you're comfortable with, where you look at the cards and you feel like you can see something going on. It could be a weight deck. It doesn't have to be this big, but it could be a weight deck. It could be one of my favorite, more modern decks, Light Seers Tarot. It could be Aunt Lily's Tarot. There are many, many decks, but what you want is a clear deck with clear images, and you need to know that there are numerous tarot traditions. There is the Waite tradition, the Crowley tradition, the Marseille tradition, and then other people who just sort of have made their own decks that are tarot-like. And there are even decks that are called tarot decks that aren't really tarot decks. So one of the first things you need to know is what makes a tarot deck? Why is a tarot deck a tarot deck? Because the name may not indicate it. It may call itself tarot and not be a tarot. Candace, glad you're here. You're a beginner. That is great. Clumsy Clairvoyance, thank you so much for the super sticker. You're making me want ice cream. All right. And, all right. Hang on one second. I just had to report a troll, but that's why we're here on YouTube instead of Facebook, because that was so easy to do. All right. So what makes a tarot deck? When you're a beginner, you don't necessarily want to play with a deck that has fewer or more cards, and there are some great decks that do. For example, Chiara Marchetti's Tarot of Dreams has 4 extra cards. There are some decks that have removed a couple of cards or added a couple of cards or whatever. But honestly, I think your first deck should be a standard 78 card deck. 78 cards. And this is the thing. The first thing you want to learn about tarot is its structure, and that there are these traditions. Now, if you want to learn the Marseille tradition or the Crowley tradition, that's great. I can't really be a teacher of either of those. I've played with them. I know a little bit about them, but I am a weight reader. Most, if not all, of the decks I work with are inspired by the images of Pamela Coleman Smith and the design of A.E. Waite. And the Waite deck is the most popular deck in the world. It's 110 years old. And I think it's the most popular deck in the world because it is the easiest to work with. And so there's no shame in starting out with a weight deck or a weight-based deck. Even Lightseers is primarily a weight-based deck. So if you're called to the Crowley tradition or the Marseille tradition, that's great. Go get thee a Marseille deck or a Crowley deck and read the books and find the teachers that can help you. Do not show up at a weight-based class with a Marseille deck. You're going to be confused. So recognize there are different traditions. Recognize some decks don't follow any of those traditions. Recognize that I think the easiest tradition to learn is the weight tradition. And then you can branch out from there. And that's easy enough. And you don't necessarily want the deck you think is prettiest or the deck that is called to you. You want the deck that has clear images that you can look at and feel something from and see something in. Okay? So that's where I would start with that. Claire, well, I love the Thoth, and that's the Crowley. It confused me as a beginner because of the different cards and meanings. Learning is easier with the RWS, which is a thing that we call the weight. Yes, absolutely. And Diana, there is even a weight deck with keywords upright and reversed. Yeah, it's called the Q&E, Quick and Easy Tarot from US Games. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, tradition, choosing a deck, and then understanding structure. That your beginner decks should have 78 cards divided into 2 sections. The major arcana and the minor arcana. The word arcana means secrets. It's like the word arcane. Michael Wells, I haven't seen you in forever. Thank you for being here. So, 78 cards divided into 2 sections, major arcana, minor arcana. The word arcana means secrets. So major secrets and lesser secrets. Now, the interesting thing is the cards, there are 78 cards. 22 of them are the major arcana, the major secrets. The rest are the minor. So there are fewer major than minor. And I was reading one tarot book that was describing this half of the deck, the major arcana half of the deck and the minor arcana half of the deck. And I couldn't get past the idea that no, it's not half. Half means 50%, for gosh sakes. Sorry. But, you know, it was a great book other than that, and I just couldn't, because you cannot call this half the deck. Sorry, but there it is. So, there are 2 sections, the major arcana, the minor arcana. The major arcana has the fewer cards, but the weightier cards, the heavier cards, the bigger secrets of life. Okay. Betty, don't start with unicorns or mermaids. Right, unless it is like the unicorn tarot that is like the weight with unicorns in it, you know? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Keep it simple and keep it fully illustrated. Now, when we look at learning tarot, we want to recognize this most important thing. And wherever you are in your tarot journey, listen up, because this is something that I hear a lot of people, even people who've been reading for a long time, will say something that lets me know that they don't understand this one really important thing. When we talk about learning tarot, yes, we talk about learning how to divine with the cards, but that, my friends, is only part of it. Your tarot deck is a book of spiritual wisdom in picture form. If you want to learn tarot, you study this deck like you study the Bible. And you don't study it just like, okay, this is what this card might mean in a reading. You study the wisdom of the cards for the sake of the wisdom of the cards. And so if you go to tarot saying, I'm going to learn this because I want the wisdom of the cards, you will learn the wisdom of the cards simply by learning the cards, and then figuring out what they mean in a reading becomes easy. So go to your deck looking for the wisdom in the cards. And we'll talk about how we find that in just a moment. Angelic Michelle says, I love the Happy Tarot, but I couldn't start with it because the suits are not written on the cards. There's just a symbol. Yeah. Right. And it's little things like that that will make you decide one way or the other if it's a deck for you to start with. And if it's not, get another deck. We all become deck collectors. You know, the majority of us have, you know, I'd love to see that. In the chat, give me a number. How many decks do you have? I think I'm probably at about 150. How many decks do you have? And you won't read with all of them. You'll collect them, and it's good to collect. All right. Now, correspondences and associations. We understand that historically, as far as we know, when tarot first began, there were no esoteric associations with the cards, or if they were deeply hidden within them because there's no record of it. The esoteric associations came after. Tarot started as a game. Esoteric tarot, it took a couple of centuries for the game of tarot to develop into esoteric tarot. But as it did, there are associations that were drawn between the cards and certain systems. You do not need to learn every system in order to learn tarot. But I would make the argument that there are two systems that you absolutely need to learn in order to understand tarot. And that is the numerology of tarot and the four elements. The four elements are the cornerstone of esoteric thinking in terms of tarot, astrology, Wicca. All of these things deal with the four elements. And if you look at indigenous cultures worldwide, they pretty much all have an elemental thing. You know, the Chinese have 5 elements. The Native Americans have the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water, but they have ascribed different metaphysical meanings to them than we have in the Western occult system. So when we talk about the 4 elements, we recognize that there is power inherent there just because people all over the world have found power there. But that when we're looking at tarot, we are looking at the Western occult system. And that is the same system as is found in astrology. So one of the things you want to think about, and go ahead and chat it in, what is your sun sign? And what is the element associated with your sun sign? So I'm a Scorpio, so water. And then you want to look and you want to say, well, you know, what are my watery traits? And we'll talk about that. Looking at some of the deck numbers, we've got 3, we've got over 200. Hey, Chriswell, you are not a complete newbie, but we are so happy to see you. You get applause for being here, and we're looking forward to seeing you at StarCon Online as well. Glad you are here. Kathy has 4, Christine has 8. Robin Renee has 20 tarot, 30 oracle. Peggy Lou has over 75 decks, both tarot and oracle. Clumsy clairvoyance, okay, I have a problem with buying decks and collecting them. That's not necessarily a problem. Betty Flesher, about 150. Michael Wells, I never counted. Dave Victor, how many decks does one person need? Just one more, right? And for the elements, Diana, Aries, fire. Peggy Lou, Cancer, water. Cheryl Jefferson, nice to see you here. Cancer, water. Laura, sun. Air sign of Libra, right? Okay, everyone. Aviva, Virgo, you're an earth sign. Okay, Ashley, you're a Capricorn, that's earth. Okay, Marion K. Tarot, so nice to see you here. Looking forward to your speaking at StarCon. So nice to see everyone chatting in. Chara, two tarot decks, 1 oracle, but 1 million I want. Yeah, that's another question. Like, what's the next one on your list? You know, what's your goal deck? I've got the Grateful Dead tarot coming in the mail. It's not here yet. It's been ordered. It's not been shipped yet. Looking forward to that. Chriswell is in the hospital right now. We're all sending you good vibes. You only have your digital phone decks with you. Hey, it works. It works. It works. Okay. So thank you all for chatting in. Sue, 200. And Sue, looking forward to seeing you at StarCon as well. 200. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. All right. So the 4 elements. Let's talk about the esoteric and tarot associations of the 4 elements. Sarah, you're a lot of water, huh? Makes sense. All right. So let's start with fire. The esoteric, metaphysical properties of fire: passion, creativity, everything that burns within you, right? You're warm. If you're a fire person, you're warm, but you might be quick to anger, right? And so fire in tarot is going to be your passion, your creativity, your spirituality, anything that burns within you. It can show anger. It can show the creative process. It can show motivation. It can show will. And we know that those fire signs have a lot of will, right? So that's going to be your suit of wands. And there is an elemental association for each of the major arcana cards as well. I'm not going to go through that right now, but I will tell you there are more fire cards in the major arcana than any other sign, than any other element. So I think that's pretty cool. So now, there are some decks that switch fire and air. In other words, decks where swords are fire and wands are air. It can happen. I would argue that's not a beginner deck. And there are magical traditions that do that as well. But one thing we want to think about, air and fire are the masculine elements. Earth and water are the feminine elements. Or we might say earth and water are the yin elements. Fire and air are the yang elements. You could say it like that as well. All right. So, oh, Sue, you're getting the Grateful Dead tarot. That's so cool. I'm going to be interviewing the artist and designer for the Cartomancer. I'm so excited. All right. So now let's go to air. Air is the suit of swords. Air is all the powers of the mind. You can think of fire as the powers of vitality, air as the powers of the mind. That's thought, communication, intelligence, curiosity, honesty and dishonesty, integrity, technology, everything having to do with the mind. Okay, water is cups. And that's going to be everything that is emotional, okay? That's powers of the heart, powers of emotion. Everything that's emotional, that's love, that's feeling, that's the connection we have with our families and the people we care about. It's our flow, it's our dreaminess, it's a kind of creativity as well. And then there is earth related to the suit of pentacles. And that is the power of resource. Okay, that is your money, that is your well-being, that is your possessions, everything that is material, time, money, energy, all of that, pentacles, earth. And so the earth people we have here, people born under an earth sign, will probably be very practical. People born on an air sign are, people who think and communicate. Fire sign people are very motivated. Water sign people are very emotional. Now, of course, that also we bring in the rising sign and the moon and all of that. Hey, Lisa Harmon, nice to see you. Glad you're here. So, numbers. Each card in the deck, in the 78 card deck, has a number, except arguably the Fool. And we'll talk about the Fool in just a moment. So the numbers matter. Oh, and you know what? The court cards are not numbered. They have ranks. So rank is like a number. When you want to memorize tarot, You want to memorize keywords for your elements, which we just went through, and keywords for your numbers and your ranks. And so then you can just put the keyword for the element and the rank together, and you have an idea of a classic keyword or concept for the cards. Now, let's talk for a moment about classic keywords and interpretations, because so many times you will use classic keywords and interpretations in a reading, and so many times you won't. So many times it's just about what you see in the picture, what you feel in the moment, how you feel the card. And so one thing I say to beginners is, yes, learn the associations, learn classic meanings, learn classic keywords, but do not wait to do readings. Just pull a card and see what you see in the card. And I've seen it, and I'm sure you've seen it too, in tarot classes with brand new readers, looking at a card for the first time, and you say, what do you see in that card? And they'll tell you, and it will be a legit reading, and it will be very close to a traditional interpretation. So learn elements and numbers, and we'll go over the numbers in a moment. But don't be afraid just to look at the cards and see what you see. Learn keywords and classic interpretations, but recognize that's your jumping off point. Those are your building blocks. That's not necessarily going to create the reading. Because the other thing about tarot is tarot stimulates the third eye when we look at it. It opens up our intuition, it opens up our imagination, and allows us to tell the stories. Now, remember, what did I say? Within the tarot is a book of spiritual wisdom even before you do a reading. Just in the study of the cards, you learn. And what do you learn? Well, there are stories here, and let's start by looking at the cards in numeric order. We see stories in these cards, and these stories have meaning for us. So the card with no number and no rank is the Fool, numbered card 0. Now, some people say the number of the Fool is 22. Some people say the number of the Fool is 0, and that's where the Fool is. Here's how I see it. The Fool is the star of the story that is told by tarot. The rest of the cards represent the characters, the experiences, the lessons, everything that the Fool does and encounters on the Fool's journey through life. We are the Fool. We are the Fool on our journey through life. So the Fool represents us, the other 77 cards, everything that we will encounter. And that's why the Fool is numbered 0, because the Fool travels through the deck experiencing all of these other cards. Now, FYI, the Fool is related to the element of air and the planet Uranus. Now, when we talk about other associations of the cards, we've talked about elements and we've talked about numbers. There's astrological associations, and that's something that Marion K. Tarot, is going to be teaching at StarCon this year, and we are really excited. I know a lot of the astrological associations of the major arcana, not so much the minor arcana, so I'm going to learn a lot from Marion at StarCon. Now, the other thing that is associated with tarot in terms of associations and correspondences is Kabbalah. The Sephira and the Paths have tarot associations, and that is another way to learn the tarot. I don't do it that way. You don't need, I stand saying you need the 4 elements and you need the numbers. Astrology is helpful, Kabbalah is helpful, but you don't need those things to learn tarot. You need the numbers and you need the elements. So very quickly, because you can spend a lifetime studying these things, let us look. I'm going to try to do this in like 2 minutes. The Fool's journey through the major arcana. Okay, so the Fool is on his journey and he's carrying this pouch. And in this pouch are the 4 tools of magic: the sword, the cup, the pentacle, and the wand. These are the symbols of the 4 elements. The Fool decides he wants to learn how to use those symbols, those tools. So he puts them on a table and learns to use them, and he finds power. So he stops wandering and he decides to learn how to use his tools. Then the Fool explores the feminine side, looks within, understands that all of the world's religions have wisdom and that there's commonality in that wisdom. The Fool takes that wisdom and goes within, into the subconscious, and learns to look within. So we now have 3 cards about learning. We learn by exploring, we learn by study, and we learn by looking within. Now that we're in this sort of feminine power, we get pregnant. We go from being passive to being active with the Empress. The Empress represents fertility, pregnancy, mothers. We all have one way or the other. And so the Fool encounters nurturance, productivity, creativity. And where there is a mother, there is also a father. And with that, the Fool learns about leadership and authority and community. And where there is community, there is religion. And this is where the Fool learns about rules and dogma and how it's important to know a lot, but it's important not to be a know-it-all. Then finally, the Fool learns how to connect with other people and how to distinguish what is wanted in one's life and what is not wanted in one's life. Finally, the Fool is able to drive a car. Now, seriously, once you've learned these things, you are in charge of your own journey. Then the Fool learns that anger is not the greatest strength, that the greatest strength is love. Love is how you tame the beast. The Fool learns that higher wisdom can only come on one's own, that you must allow yourself to be alone and to be lonely to really develop wisdom, and that is a journey of patience. The Fool learns that there are always going to be ups and downs in life and things we cannot control. The Fool learns that it is important to treat others with fairness, but that we cannot expect that we will always be treated fairly. The Fool learns that when you cannot change your circumstances, you have to change your attitude. The Fool learns that change is inevitable. And the Fool learns that nothing is perfect, that you have to take a little of this and a little of that and blend it together to find the perfect blend. The Fool learns that on the journey to enlightenment, one must face oneself and one must look at the things one has attached oneself to and walk away from what isn't healthy. And if we do not walk away, something more devastating will happen. That which is built on a faulty foundation cannot stand. It must be swept away, and then there will be healing. Then we have enough knowledge to explore the deeper mysteries in life. And then we have the courage to let our own light shine brightly. Then we can put closure to the past and move forward on our journey, for we have completed the journey of the Fool. We have the Fool's knowledge. We can see ourselves and the world for what it is. All right, that was about 4 minutes. Obviously, you could spend hours studying each card, and you should. But if you think about it that way, you learn so much. All right. And one great thing to do is to sort of say, well, what lesson am I learning right now? And to look at the major arcana cards as lessons. Now, they can be mundane too, you know? Hey, Wendy, nice to see you. The Empress can be your mom. The Chariot can indeed be your car. The Temperance can be your bartender. They can be mundane, but they all have deep spiritual lessons. So if I were to say, what spiritual lesson am I learning right now? The Hanged Man. How to be patient and accept what I cannot change, and how to change my attitude to correlate with what is true. All right. So then we have the 4 suits. And here is where the numbers are really important. Sarah, that was epic. It is an epic tale, right? Right? All right. Thank you for saying that. So the numbers matter in the major arcana, but they matter first in the minor arcana. And when you study numerology, and I often say this, when you study numerology, everyone agrees on the first 4 numbers, and then as soon as we get to 5, different schools of thought vary widely. But let's talk about tarot numerology. Aces are ones. Ones are new beginnings. They're also the source, the essence, or the seed of something. 2s, partnership, decisions, duality, choices, and recently, and I shared this in a members only video, I think I shared that. I think I did, yeah. I've been thinking about 2s is like just stay in your own lane and do your thing, right? 3s, productivity. What is produced? Something is produced with the 3s. Michael, doesn't the hangman represent stagnation? There can be a certain amount of waiting or stuckness, so sure. But the whole idea is not the stagnation, but the enlightenment that comes because you're stuck, you can't do anything. And so you have to find some enlightenment either while you're waiting for what happens next or in order to get out of that situation. So 3s, it's a product, something is produced. 4 is stability and the comfort zone. 5 is expansion, what happens when you jump out of the comfort zone. And there can be conflict there. 6 is about victory. And Pamela says that's hilarious. People don't agree on 5 since there's conflict in the 5s, right? Sorry, could you? 6 is about victory and service. 7 is about self-determination and your own journey forward. 8 is about motion. 9 is about fullness. 10 completes the cycle. Page, youth, communication, and learning. Knight, youth, travel, and pursuit. Queen, feminine and nurturance. King, masculine and leadership. Bang, there we have it. So element plus number or rank equals classic interpretations and keywords. But the Fool also travels through the suits. So let's just tell a story real quick. So the Fool decides he wants to make some money. And so he works a job, he works another job, he's busy, working. And finally, he gets promoted and he gets some recognition for his work and he makes some money. But then he doesn't want to share his money with anyone. And because he was so greedy, he ends up out on his own, cold and alone. And then someone else shares with him and he learns the value of sharing. Then he goes back to work, learning the value of hard work and money. And he learns a trade and makes enough money so that he's secure and buys a house and lives happily ever after. Has a kid, how about that? Who goes to school and also learns a trade, goes off traveling, learns to take care of himself, his family, and his money, and becomes a great leader. There, that was a story. Is that the only story you could tell there? No, of course not. But just to see how the cards go together. Find the stories in the cards. Find the lessons in the cards. Now, it is also true that there are stories and lessons by number, looking at the 4 aces together and how we see a new beginning, a seed, an essence in these 4 cards. Looking at the 2s together and how we see partnership, decision, finding our own journey, balance. That's another great word for 2, is balance. With 3, something is produced. Here, heartache is produced. Here, joy is produced, but something is produced. So that's how we learn about those cards. And I think it's really important. There are people who will say, well, the major arcana is the things you can't change, and the minor arcana are the things you can. I think that's total BS. There are people who will say the major arcana is big, spiritual, important stuff, and the minor arcana is mundane stuff. Also BS. Every card can speak to everything depending on the context. This could be deep, deep spiritual healing, right? This could be the open heart, receiving the higher love from the higher power, right? Or where's my majors? What did I do with my majors? I put them somewhere. Here's the majors. And this can be having to go to court to pay your speeding ticket. So do not limit what the cards can mean. Now, any questions so far? People ask me, what is the best tarot book? And I say, of course, Tarot Tour Guide, the book I wrote. I've written 2. Fortune Stellar is specifically for those who want to be professional. Tarot Tour Guide is for everyone. But seriously, what is the best tarot book? In all honesty, it is your tarot journal. Whether you keep it longhand or digitally, I really believe that a tarot journal is a great way to learn how to read the cards using the method that I call COTD, card of the day. So how do you do that? And you can do this at any point in your journey. How do you do it? Get a file or a notebook, and you're going to do 2 things. You're going to have a page for each of the 78 cards, and then you're going to have a section where you have pages for your card of the day. So every day, pick a card. Don't think about it as a reading. Think of it as, this is the card I need to study today. Look at the card. Write down on that day's entry your observations about the card. What do you see in this card? How does it make you feel? What do you think about? Now, Google, within, there is so much tarot wisdom right in here, right? Google and see what 5 or 6 different people have to say about it. If you've got books in your tarot library, read 5 or 6 different books. What do they have to say about it? What do you think about it? Write this all down. At the end of the day, look back, or the next day, look back and see how the card manifested in your day and write about that. Now, whatever keywords or interpretations make sense to you for that card, go to the other section where you have the cards and write that down for that card, and allow over time your understanding of the cards to grow over time. Mine is still growing. How I feel about a card today is different than how I felt about it a year ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever. It's always growing. Do not get fixed in your understanding of a card. I had someone say that when you first get a deck, you should go through the deck and in your mind make an agreement. Set the deck, fix the deck with what the cards are always going to mean. I hate that idea. I mean, if it works for you, great. But I think it's fine to activate a card for a particular purpose in a particular reading. But I think we got to let the cards mean what they're going to mean at any point in any reading. So now we've talked a little bit about how we choose a deck, about tarot traditions, about recognizing that tarot study is about studying the wisdom of the cards, not just what they mean in a reading. We've talked about a method for learning the cards, but I would say start doing readings before you know the cards. That's right. Start doing readings before you know the cards. Be willing to do a reading and look up the cards in the book, because the reading is not the interpretation from the book. The reading is your ability to extrapolate what you see in the card, what you feel intuitively, what you read in the book, and to make that into a personal message in answer to the question. That's the reading. So Wendy, we were talking about different decks earlier on, I think before you got here, that each deck can bring a different interpretation. And that's an interesting question. That's something we're going to be exploring at StarCon in our opening panel session. Nancy Hendrickson is going to be leading a panel on exactly that. Angelic Michelle, how do I feel about cards with keywords written on them? Great for students. I never use them professionally, because even though I can get past the keyword, my client can't. And so if the card, like, that's why I don't like to use a Crowley deck professionally. You know, the client looks at the card and sees futility, and that's where they're going to sit. And they're not going to think about all the other things that card can mean, even though I tell them. They're going to see the word and get stuck. So, you know, the thing is, when we talk about different decks and different interpretations, I feel like, you know, the same card in the same deck can have different interpretations at different times. You know, I might see this Queen of Pentacles in one reading and say, oh, you know, she's really nurturing. Oh my gosh. And then I might see her again and she's like looking really like, oh my gosh, I'm all about this money. I'm all about this money. And those are two different interpretations for this card, both appropriate, but very, very different. So you're going to feel differently about different cards at different times, even in the same deck. Wendy, you know, the cheapest ticket for StarCon is $50. So even if you can get in at that level, you'll learn a lot and you'll have some fun. Now, for me, I'll tell you how I do it. I have a deck in my head. The card illustrations that I've seen that I really like, I remember. And so no matter what deck I'm working with, if I see the Four of Cups, I'm going to be remembering the Four of Cups, not only in the deck I'm working with, but in 4 or 5 other decks, and that will come into my interpretation. So the more decks I study, the more my understanding of the card I'm using in any deck grows. Because for me, there's a difference between, there's the tarot deck you're working with, but then there is the body and energy of tarot. And I feel like each deck taps into that larger body and energy of tarot, which I don't know all of. I only know what I know, but I'm going to use all that I know no matter what deck I'm working with. But that's just me. Not everyone does that. Okay. Marianne, where can I buy your book? Right on Amazon. Just look it up on Amazon. Absolutely. Claire, I've learned the cards from your various interpretations on Mondays for the card of the week. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Other people have told me that too. For those of you who don't know, every Monday, 9:30 a.m., I'm here on this channel doing the 3-card weekly reading. Then I pull cards for individuals for the week ahead. Oh, Wendy, yes. Yeah, get your $50 ticket. You can always upgrade later if you want. Seriously. And Marion, you have a Frankenstein deck in your head too. Yep. And Chriswell, in your head is PCS, that's the weight deck, the Pamela Coleman Smith in your head. Sure, absolutely. All right, so now I'm open to any questions. We're in our last 10 minutes. I'm open to any questions you might have. When you're looking for my book on Amazon, Christiana Gaudet is the name of the author. and Tarot Tour Guide. And if you're interested in being a professional reader, also look for Fortune Stellar. You can get it for your Kindle or you can get it in paperback. Now, doing readings. How shall the beginner do readings? Ashley, how would you go about learning oracle cards? So that's such an interesting thing because there's really two ways to go about it. One is to look at the particular deck, read the book that comes with it, and just learn that deck. And that's not going to help you with any other deck. That's its own thing. The other is just to be really intuitive about it, and what you see in the cards is what you see in the cards, and that's the way it is. The thing about tarot is when you learn one tarot deck, you can pretty much read most tarot decks. And that's the difference between modern oracle decks and tarot. Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm appreciating all the nice things that you're saying. Thank you. About my books and all of that. And I got you, Wendy. I got it. And I'm open to any other questions. I want to talk about a couple other things. So the 3-card reading. The 3-card reading is really, really popular. And that's because 3 is such a powerful number. The rule of 3, the law of 3, the golden mean is based on 3. So much in the universe is based on 3. And a 3-card reading is great. But do not get stuck only doing 3-card readings. Definitely learn to do a larger spread and start early. My first spreads were the Celtic Cross. The 11-card Celtic Cross was my first spread. And to this day, that's the spread I use. A lot of tarot teachers will say, oh, you'll get confused. Don't do a big spread when you first start. Do spreads. Work with the book, write it out, think about it, and see what happens. You know, do 3-card spreads, do single card pulls, but do larger spreads too, and do groups of cards where the group of cards has no assigned meaning. Play with it all. The more tools you have, the better you will be. Michael says oracle cards work best with intuition, and Michael, by the way, is a professional oracle card reader. So, Dave, when I first learned tarot, everyone said to honor the deck, the one deck that each of us owned, by wrapping it in silk and having a fancy box or container for it, almost like a shrine. Your thoughts? I don't know. Black silk was the deal. I think you want to, your deck is your magical tool, and so you want to deal with it in that way. But back then, decks did not come in these beautiful boxes. Now decks come in beautiful boxes. And so it's a very different thing than it used to be. So I would say it depends. It totally depends. I do think that when you first get a deck, you want to do a dedication ceremony with it to dedicate it to your use. I do think you want to do that for sure. Marion, if I wrapped all mine in silk, I'd need a silkworm farm. With a new deck, how do you shuffle them to incorporate reversals? Very good. So here. I turn one side 180, and then I shuffle. Cut, and I do this every time I shuffle. Turn one side 180, shuffle. So there was a time, probably 5 years in to my professional tarot career, working as a full-time reader, my elbow really started to hurt. I went to the doctor. He's like, do you play tennis? No. He said, well, you've got tennis elbow. There's something you're doing that's a twisting motion. And I realized it was that 180-degree twist that I do to create reversals. I was reading for so many people, shuffling so much that I didn't have tennis elbow. I had tarot elbow, believe it or not. Okay. And excuse me, Michael's giving some love for one of my 3-card spreads, body, mind, spirit. 1 card for each, how you're doing, taking care of yourself, body, mind, spirit. Yes. So a tarot dedication. Write down what you want this deck to do. Dedicate it. I dedicate this deck to my search for truth for myself and for my clients. I dedicate this deck to healing and growth, whatever. Mark the deck with your breath. Blow on it. Hold it to your heart, hold it to your throat, hold it to your third eye. You might use incense or sage. I like to do every single card through the smoke, so the smoke goes all over the card. But I have a lot of allergies, so I don't always do that. When I was younger, I liked to, but as I got older, my allergies got worse. How many times do I shuffle before pulling a card? It's just intuitive. I know when it's done. Michael, I have my Rider-Waite deck in green silk for healing and prosperity. Chris, well, I think the silk wrap adds a small ritual. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that ritual is nice. It really is. What about reading reversals? Is this optional? It is absolutely optional, but know this. Reversals are a way of denoting dignity. Dignity or aspect is whether you read the most direct meaning of the card or whether you put the card in the past or in the future, forced or resisted, too much or too little. And you will read those dignities whether or not you read reversals. A reversal is an easy way to say, okay, it's ill-dignified. There's either too much or too little of this. It's either in the past or in the future. It's either forced or resisted. If you don't use reversals, you're going to find other ways to find that dignity, whether you're reading it straight on or in the past or in the future, forced or resisted, too much or too little. And so I use reversals because it's the easiest. I'm lazy. There it is. All right. Angelic Michelle likes to put crystals on the tarot. Absolutely. That's a great thing to do. Okay. And Pamela puts the cards on the table and mixes them this way. That's a beautiful way to do it. It's like stirring a cauldron. I love that. I love that. So we are in our last 3 minutes. I want to thank everybody. I hope you found this interesting. If you have any further questions, please put them in. If you're watching the replay, put them in comment. Do I allow my clients to touch the cards, such as cutting? I do. When COVID started, and if I'm feeling squeamish, I won't. Here's what I do instead. I ask them to rub their hands together to open their palm chakras. I ask them to take their right hand, hold it over the cards for 3 breaths and put their energy into the cards, 3 breaths. Then their left hand, hold it over the card for 3 breaths to prepare to receive the wisdom the cards will have for us. That way it's touchless. So with COVID and whatnot, I developed that and it actually works really well. All right. But before COVID, I don't mind people touching my cards mostly. Do I do daily meditation? Not in the sense of I am sitting and meditating for half an hour. No, I do not. Do I do little meditations throughout the course of the day? Yes, every day. Every day. So you can purify a deck for a certain purpose? Yes. Yes, you can. And you can change that purpose later on with a different dedication. Yes, you can. Okay. Are reversals a must in readings? No, but dignity is. So you're going to read that on the card on that spectrum. And so how will dignity be denoted if you're not using reversals? It's going to be the context of the card and the question. It's going to be your intuition. It's going to be the other cards around it. And you're going to do some of that anyway. We are always reading dignity with or without reversals. Oh, Laura, thank you so much for that very generous super sticker. Really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. So, friends, I am available for readings right up until StarCon and then after StarCon, but not during StarCon for obvious reasons. Go to my website, ChristianaGaudet.com. You can book a reading directly there if you like, or find contact information to reach out to me. Get your StarCon ticket. Tickets range in price from $50 to $425. There is a ticket in there for you. You can join us online or in person. It is a hybrid conference. Please, please, please do join us. I want to thank you so much. There is going to be a members only class at the end of the month, but I may not have time to get it up until after StarCon. But mark your calendars now. If you are a member of this channel, January 27th, 7 p.m., we're doing a members only class. We will have our regular schedule here on YouTube starting back in February. My friends, I thank you so much for being here. Please let me know what questions you have. Put them in the comments. I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you especially for those who helped out with super chats and super stickers. And thank you especially to all of our members. I hope to see you next week at StarCon, all of you, in person or online. Thank you all so very much. Oh, Julie, thanks for ending us with a super sticker. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. Really appreciate all of you. Please remember to like this video as well. Take really good care. Thank you.